All right, here we are.
Again.
Yes. Oh, right, episode 4. So after a little break, um, but it's all good.
Yep.
So
Um,
Eric, we let's just recap how far we've got and where we're gonna get to this week.
yeah. So we got to a place where we could upload content to our CMS. So we're almost like feature complete, at least for some sort of feature complete. Um,
Feature complete for a CMS. Yeah, definitely close to that. Yeah, I mean you can tell you're
yes.
in startup land. We can upload a video. A feature complete. Yeah, ship it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. But I guess what's sort of bothering me a little bit is our router. Um,
Sure, sure.
So I would really like to just clean that up so that we have the two, three routes that we should have.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think what we've talked
Another,
about. Sorry, go on. Carry on. Yeah.
yeah, another thing that's a little bit scary is that, and which is getting a little bit out of hand, is that we still have everything stored in an atom. So if this REPL dies, then all our data is gone. So it would be nice to have some sort of more durable way to store our state.
Yes. 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 Okay. So I think first time. So what we were talking about was that in order to get the routers working, we need some sort of ID. So we need some sort of identity, and and then the question is, well, can that content that's referenced by that ID change over time? Can you update your blog post? Can you update the video with a better sound quality? Let's hope one day, we'll finally get there. Um, and I think we would like to be able to say yes to both of those questions.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's a matter of it's a little bit like I have a social security number which identifies Eric. But Eric sort of changes over time, so we can't really like with my social security number, we can't go and figure out an exact version of me, but it's like all the versions, if you will.
Yeah, 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 kind of. I mean, but I think it's sort of, yeah, it's definitely linked to various aspects of your life, isn't it?
Yeah,
Which evolve over time, like you say. Your address changes or your marital status changes, things like this. You know.
yeah. And it's also like if we look at the router here, we're sort of addressing content number one in its what is this in its identity sense and not necessarily in its value sense. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
trying to we're trying to, we're saying, like, in our case, we kind of know this is the first episode, so the identity in that sense would be like first episode. Um, but obviously that's a fairly it's a fairly, what should we say? It's a strong claim that it's like the first episode ever of anything. So if we were the ones that claimed identity, well, in fairness to our show, if we claimed like the first episode name and for our episode, then that would be great. But it's kind of like the next person that comes along and says, right, first episode, they're going to be out of luck. So we've got a namespace problem with identity, that's for sure.
Yeah. But we also have like we have the titles, right? So we have like our episode like you can have content 13, but you can still have the title first episode. So in that sense, like if someone wants to start another show on our CMS, what we're displaying here is not really the ID that we refer to it with.
No,
We display a name.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, but again, sort of like names and stuff like that, they're obviously fairly narrow in terms of like their global scope.
Mm.
And obviously numbers, like, we could just like say, okay, well, we're just gonna have an infinite set of numbers that we just use, and people just get those handed out. But that feels like a kind of crappy way to, not a very humane way, let's say, to identify things.
Yep.
But we could go super inhumane and just go UUID everything.
Yep. Yep. So, yep, that would work. So what I
Yeah, I'm not
guess,
against it. Yeah, I mean, the only thing about it to me is that I think there's kind of like there's this notion of like if like let's say episode one has a UUID of blah 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 blah, blah whatever that is, and then so basically some indirection between that UUID and then all of the sort of metadata and content that's referred to by episode one. And
mm,
that obviously can evolve over time. So that's the general idea, I guess.
yep. But I guess without what we could do is we could just create a little level of indirection, right? I have like the thing is that we have two URLs here,
Right. Yes.
right? So if we said that rather than equals, we could say something like stir starts with
Sure.
URI and then something like this.
Hmm.
Because the only thing that we now haven't really we haven't really decided on how we represent our UIDs. We just say that it's something that, or sorry, our IDs. We just say that it's something that comes after the slash there.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
And then I guess we need something like that up here, and then we would do the same here,
Can I
right?
just check, by the way, that this is starts with like a substring, or is it a regular expression? I
Uh,
keep on forgetting.
let's see. That's true.
All right. Okay.
Yep. And if we say that, so this one should be longer, so
Foolish.
no, yep, that should be good. Yep. Um, that's true. And then CLJ Condo and Emacs and everyone is helping us here, because I
Hmm.
forgot to remove that one.
Yes.
Right. Then we should be able to remove these ones, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But what we would need then is that we have the URI, which we know starts with something that's interesting to us, and then there's something at the end which is also interesting to us, and that would be
Hmm.
an ID, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so something like this, and then we take the URI and we can stir split it, and here we need a regex. And then so we split it on the slashes, and then we take the last one of those.
I think it's stress split, by the way, because I think you've accidentally done spit,
No.
which I don't think is a real thing actually. So it's a bit weird.
Yep,
Or if it
like
is, it's
that.
news to me. Yeah.
And then uh and then we have another addition, I think, I don't remember if this is 112 or 111. But anyways,
I think you can just say parse long, can't you?
maybe.
Parse dash long, which is 111. Yeah.
Nice. And then if we say, hmm, let's, ah, there we go. Right?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yep. And then it would be nice now to sort of, here we're sort of looking up in the DB, uh, sort of naively. So I think we would need,
Some sort of, yeah, query.
yeah. And then what did we have here? We had for now um, and that would be DB, and then this is like really ugly, but
That's
let's
really
speed.
wild, but okay, it works. It works.
And then that would be by ID and something like this. Let's just
Right.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should work. Good. Then I'm sort of I'm a happy camper now.
You're easily pleased. That's what I said.
So, we can go on and talk a little bit more about IDs and stuff, and how would you want this to be done?
Yeah, I think so. If we were going to do it via UUIDs, then I feel like you'd want some kind of reproducibility around it. Like, like maybe the title would be something, or maybe you would have. I don't know. It would be. It's kind of like funny in some ways because if everything around the thing, every single value can change, then maybe we don't need to have something which is super specific to the content. But
Mm,
normally I would say something like it would be, like the user ID or something like that, plus something like some other ID. Like maybe there is a sort of incremental number or something. Just so you can, the main point about it is that if you want to test your system, you want to be able to reproduce identities, um, because otherwise you're kind of dealing with a lot of randomness in
mm,
your system. How do you reproduce these subtle bugs if you can't? If you can remove randomness from your system as much as possible, you eliminate more bugs than, and it makes reproducibility just simpler, I think. So it'd be
yep.
something along those lines. Like
I
maybe the.
guess I guess one thing that we could do sort of uh preparatory
Hmm.
is that we have this thing here, which is basically a function that gives us the next ID.
Yes, that could be interesting. Yeah.
Um, and I guess we could at least externalize that from handle upload.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, and then like you say, I was saying, we could put the username with the ID, and then you kind of got like two bits of information, which probably helps you to like create UUID v5s or something, which you can then like reproducibly create if you see the same stuff again.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is like
So
definitely a very. At least we've got some stuff outside of where it should be. That's good.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
outside of where it should be. Is that correct? Like,
It's
how
where
does
it
that?
is where it should be. It's outside of where it shouldn't be.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, my other little gripe with this, by the way, and I think I was talking to you about this before, was I feel like show content is a bit verby.
Hmm.
Whereas I think something like UI, for example, would be more transformery. So if we got rid of show content and called the path UI, then I feel like that would be a better expression of something and not so like content. Not so like Spring Bootish with factory manager proxies, abstract manager.
So you reacting to the URL or
To the
this
term,
function
to the
in the.
term, something called show content has sort of like it seems very do something, very Java, very verby. Whereas
Yep.
it's quite a generic thing actually. Just all you're doing is you're just transforming something for the UI. So I'm kind of objecting to both. So I think
Oof.
it should just be something that creates some content for the UI, and the UI in this case is HTML, but maybe it's something else.
Mm.
But it's definitely something to do with the UI.
Yep.
Show content feels a bit, like I said, just feels a little bit like a bit of a verb thing rather than a noun thing.
Yeah, but I need some. I'm gonna have to defer to the native speaker here, I feel.
Well, I just think UI is good enough for everything.
So like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you typically render the UI, and that UI can be a CLI, it can be it can be HTML, it can be a Gemini thing.
Yep. But then we also have like list content, which is like we have different sort of bits of UI that we render, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So what would we then call this one?
Well, let's have a look at what UI is now. It's just so that so
Yep.
that because maybe it's that function itself is a bit off. So the UI's got too much stuff there, hasn't it?
It does, because we didn't
Because it's
do any.
got no, we haven't abstracted anything. So this is probably called video at the moment, isn't it? Actually, if you think because we're basically embedding video and everything, so we'd have to abstract that away first, wouldn't we? But we can do a first stab by saying video, yeah,
Yeah.
and then we can do the other one as a first stab by saying menu or something or list. Not list. List is a bad one for for us, but
Overview?
menu or overview. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Hmm.
Or actually, in HTML land, it's normally home, isn't it? That's what they call it.
Yeah, okay, fine. Um, like this.
Yeah.
While we're at it, we talked about this the other at some point we talked about this. So we have like we see that there's repetition here with
Right.
the
Mm.
HTML body thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's two ways sort of sorting this out. Is like doing it the React way or doing it the other way.
Well, I'm not. What do you mean by React? React is basically like just div everything.
Well, I guess
Because
let's
like
have a look at.
the thing about React is that it's a single page application thing.
Yep.
So you have usually one kind of thing in the HTML that gets replaced by the UI
Yep.
application.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that this will not be the React way, I think. Um,
No, that's not the React way. Yeah, but we're not in the
Well,
React world yet, are we? So I think it's if we ever get there.
yeah, so this is like the first um something like this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
This is sort of some sort of inversion of control kind of thing. The other way would like the more sort of reacty thing would be to um say that we have another thing which is defen page, and it takes some. I'm going to use our favorite word, content, and then it's going to say HTML um, body, and then it's going to say cond like equals video. Then it would be calling and then so on and so forth.
hmm
So in this case, the page sort of knows about all the stuff that it can render. Whereas here, the video sort of dictates what the page should look like.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds about exactly what the design of React is, but you know, because I feel like yeah. In one way, you're right in the sense that like if you give it a video thing, then the video thing knows how to render itself. But the problem with
Yep.
this one is that it's kind of like it's, yeah, it's not as parameterized as one might like. But anyway,
Mm.
yeah, okay, yeah,
Yeah, because this one would then just be like this, right?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
So this feels more reacty because this is how you'd like normally at least. That's how I write React.
okay,
Whereas this one feels less reactive because here you're sort of passing some child elements into another thing.
hmm yeah. Well, I think the thing about React is that React wants to have things overwritten and rendered in like it, it's doing kind of like VDOM differences and stuff like this to
Yep.
reduce the page loads. Whereas what we're doing in our brutalist environment at the beginning is we're having pages for everything, and we don't care about page opening costs or anything like
Mm.
that. So to
Like,
me, we having things at a page level is more honest to where we are now. You know?
so you're more for this one?
Yes.
Yes. And I would actually go for a variety or a variant of this, and I would remove this one, and I would remove this one. And then if we go down to here, um, I do like that.
Where are we now? Where's the page now?
So the
Wait, which
page
one have you
is,
removed? I kind of got a bit lost as to which
oh,
one you
sorry,
removed. Oh
yeah.
yeah, okay. Now,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah.
so now we have a page thing that
hmm
is just the wrapper around the
Yeah, yeah.
stuff.
Basically, yeah, yeah. That makes
And
sense.
then
Yeah.
we have the video thing, which knows how to render a video.
Yep. Makes total
And
sense.
then
Yeah.
then I guess we can go like this,
hmm
and we can um, go like that. And then that would be here is home. And then we stick a page around the upload form as well, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And are we still working? Yes, we are still working.
Still live against the REPL. Yeah.
Yep. So this is starting to become nice, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the. Did we change the URL or did you not change the URL, by the way?
We did not change any
No. Okay.
URLs. I mean, from this, then since we call it video here, we could call it video there as well, because that's what it is right now, right?
Yeah. 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 I'm liking that. It's honest. Yeah.
Yep. And then that would be, where are we? That's here. And down here. This. Yep. Should we do an exercise on the Duratom as well?
Yeah. Well, we're only about halfway through the stream here, and I think this is probably good enough for IDs for the moment. Yeah, I agree with your refactoring. I mean, I think
Yep.
we can make that more fancy as we go along. You know,
Yep.
probably want to more fancify it as we like move out of single user mode.
Yeah, and also like for now, our database is just a list of our content. There's no like if we wanted to introduce a user here, then we would have to do some more stuff.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah.
Yes.
But again, I mean, you can with the sort of with the way that if you eventually have like UUIDs or something, the user ID can be kind of even to some extent elided. You know,
Yep.
we see that in many websites these days.
Yep. So should we have a look at trying to make our database durable?
Yes, 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 yes. So
Yep.
yeah, we were talking, weren't we, about Duratom as a sort of layer over the standard atom that would be, according to our principles of operating on the simplest possible thing that might just work. Not saying that Duratom is super simple. It's actually quite a good bit of work. But it feels like it's very close to the Clojure metal, as it were.
Yep. So let me just see if we can get a hold of our deps.eden on the other side. Here we go. Yeah, sure. Nah. What's it saying now? Whoa. Does this ever happen with cursive that IntelliJ dies? No, it didn't die. Doesn't happen with Emacs either.
IntelliJ
So
rarely dies, but you occasionally get like the REPL connection gets lost. Like nREPL,
yeah,
I don't think is the most stable thing in the world, but yeah.
what's interesting here is that I mean, if you thought if this were a JavaScript project, you would have thought that it was abandonware, and this
Mm, mm, mm.
it might just be abandonware too. But I mean, it's not been updated in quite some time.
Yeah, 2 years doesn't feel too bad to me. I mean, I think if it
Yep.
was all 9 years ago, then fair enough.
Yep.
But it feels like, yeah, they've done some work in the last couple of years, and that, you know, it's okay.
Yep.
I feel like something like this has got a fairly tight scope, so it's probably all right. The only thing that's a bit weird about it, I think, I can't remember if it talks to S3 or something like that.
I think it can.
Yeah, so it talks to S3. Now, my only problem with that is S3 as a sort of API is a bit of a moving target. But it depends on what we're
Yep.
doing here, because there are certain stable aspects of the S3 API. So maybe this will all just work, you know. Um, oh yeah, because it's understood by Amazonica. So I'm guessing
Absolutely.
that we include Amazonica, and then we keep our side up to date, and it's just a kind of like service for SPI type thing
Yeah, because
as far
this
as
one,
they're
it
concerned.
does actually. That's extra depths.
Yeah, it's just for
So
testing. So for us, we
yeah,
if we want to use it, we have to include it, I suppose.
yep,
Which is a bit of a shame that, again, it's one of these things where probably if you were doing it again today, you might use the Cognitect Amazon library rather than Amazonica, because Amazonica is this like huge ball of everything Amazon has ever made.
yeah. And I remember at work we used to use Amazonica, and then it didn't do exactly what we wanted to, and we had to use another library, and then we said screw it and went with Cognitect's AWS API instead, and we've been happy ever since.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of these things with libraries like this. Theoretically, because I know again, we haven't looked at this, but because we're not going to go with Amazon S3 anyway, because again, it's an extra service. We'll just go with a file.
Hmm.
But if we did, and if we wanted to go to that kind of thing, then we probably could like make some kind of fork of it. Because it's fairly stable, we could make a fork of it and just change that one thing, and it would be fine. Um, so I don't feel like that would be like a super dangerous thing to do.
Yeah.
In some respects, when the project is very active, it is more kind of like nerve-wracking to make forks. But if you've got a fairly, kind of low moving or slow moving target like this one, then it'd be all right.
Yep. And what do we know? It might just be that one could open an issue and submit a PR, and then maybe it got merged.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that would,
Hmm.
that would probably be the thing to do. Would be to like make our own version of it, test it all out, and then make sure it works, and then make a
Yep.
PR or have a conversation with the maintainer.
Yeah. So this is going to be a little bit exciting. I
Right.
wanna, I, I sort of like the name that we've chosen, DB.
Hmm.
So I would like our Duratom to be have the same name.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yep. So I just want to save off our DB into another var here so that we we
You're
have our
making a
data.
backup, aren't you?
I am making a backup, exactly.
Very good. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, because now what we're doing now is something I have done into a sort of larger extent is that we're switching databases.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not a task that one takes on light-handedly, I guess.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. I mean, you have to. In some respects, the nice thing about this change is that the the atom probably can be um, reproduced fairly easily. But yeah, as it gets bigger, you're
Yep.
definitely at risk. And
So,
the other nice thing
we
about this, by the way, from a generic perspective, is that the reason why most people don't change databases is because the APIs for databases vary, especially if you want to change the kind of features that you want to get from your database. Whereas here, essentially the kind of like the API that we want to use for our database, which is to essentially iterate over an atom and use
Yeah.
like map, filter, reduce, all that kind of stuff, then the interface is exactly the same because it's just a drop-in replacement for the Clojure atom. Now, there's some back-end stuff that we have to mess around with, but, you know, it's not too bad.
Like this? Does that look reasonable given this stuff?
I don't think it should be public, but other than that, yeah.
Oh, you want it to like
I'd like to have it. I'd like to have it. No, no. I mean, you've got the file path resources public DB. I don't think we'd normally keep our database in the same place that we
fair
serve
enough,
our
fair
files
enough.
from. So I think resources DB will be fine. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
You try with this?
Let's try it. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And then um I guess we also have to go here and say um because now we shouldn't have anything here. That's weird. Because did I not
Yeah, I think.
evaluate this?
Yeah, it probably hasn't actually updated the reference, has it? Because it's the same name.
How would we fix that then?
Yeah. Well, we come back to this kind of like what do you call it? Instead of
Ah, now I know why. Now I know why.
oh,
Because it's when I'm on this remote REPL,
you haven't included it. Yeah.
I haven't required it.
Mm.
Is it fair to sort of say here in READMEs and stuff that it's super nice if they bother to add the namespace,
Mm.
right? Because now I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to go and look at the source code here and see that this is probably uh, duratom.core as duratom. And then we can go down to there we go.
Right.
And now our
Right, okay.
database is
Now we're good.
empty.
Yeah.
And now there's nothing there. And then we should be able to say reset db. And then we're good.
You poured it back in. Nice. Yeah.
Yes. So not exactly zero downtime database migration, but given our traffic, I think this is acceptable.
Yeah, we should have really put a notice up, maintenance
Yeah.
window for 3 seconds.
And
It's going to ruin our
what
5.9's reputation.
yeah, this is not good. What is interesting now is oh, look at that. That's our database.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, actually, we have in some ways, the other thing that it doesn't really matter. I was going to say, in terms of like the infrastructure of this back end, we do have a place that is this one that where we, in terms of like where you put your database, this is just like, to some extent a bit boring, but I think it's worth mentioning that like where it is now, it's kind of a problem in the sense that it's attached to the VM. It's a local disk to the VM, but we have another volume which is persisting across VMs. So
Right.
So maybe it's behind the scenes. We might move this to that path, you know,
Yeah.
because it's not very interesting to watch. But just I thought it might be worth mentioning as a sort of an aside that we do want to do that. We want to make sure that our kind of our machine here can go away, but we'll keep the data across
Yep.
restarts, because that's obviously one thing that we want to. It's nice to have it on the file so we can keep it across REPL restarts, but now we should be able to keep it across virtual machine or kind of instance restarts as well. That will be the next
Yep.
thing, but I think that's a bit of a boring thing to do on this screencast, so we'll do that separately.
Yep.
Yeah, so that worked. So that's really good. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's a wrap for episode 4. I
I
guess we
believe so
just need
too.
to have a little chit chat about it now. Just see what's
Yeah.
what. What do we think about this? These new improved facilities, Eric.
Um, I like it. What are we at now? We're at 90, so 100 lines of code. Um,
Hmm.
uh, I still don't really feel a need for a router, even though we've seen some hints of it. Because um, we saw here that, no, we saw, where did we see that? Um, we saw somewhere that we are sort of not being dry insofar that we're repeating some stuff here that is also on the in the router bit.
Well, we've got content, video, upload content. Those 3 are basically routes, but I would contend that you could just def them at this point.
Yeah.
You know.
And but then I think most routers come with a facility so you can sort of talk about the route sort of as a namespaced keyword, and then you can ask the route to give you the URL um, of that namespace keyword, I think. It's not a facility that I've used much.
I think to be honest, I think the most used thing of a lot of routers is having string interpolation for IDs and stuff like that. So, like
Yep.
where we have this function called ID, arrow
Yep.
ID, a lot of them would have like embedded like colon ID, and then you kind of look it up in the router. But actually, I find that a bit heavyweight. I find what we're doing. I mean, to be honest, I feel like this is super obvious.
Yep.
And again, I think whenever we're looking at code like this, is like when do we need it? I mean, we've got some repetition. I think literally do a def for content, which is essentially the stuff on the server side. And then we've got like a video, and we've got that's it really. That sort of video, which is the UI side of things.
Yep.
And I feel like for the
Eh.
moment we don't really need much more than that.
No.
Um, as things scale, maybe, and again, it's like I think what we're trying to do here is we're trying to defer paying costs until we need to pay them.
Yep.
So maybe that will be worth at some point to say, okay, actually, it would be nice to have some indirection here. But for the moment, I think this is fine.
Yep.
It's very. We haven't got a lot of traffic, so we don't worry about compiling the the router. And B, I think we haven't had to learn a routing library to make this happen.
Hmm.
And I think whenever you take on a library, you're essentially conforming to someone else's opinions about how things should work, and invariably there are competing libraries for these things. So
Yeah,
then
but
you have to have
there's
some sort of like beauty contest over which one of these matches your requirements, and then you have to work out like all of those sort of things, and you get into all kinds of bike shedding bullshit. Whereas here we're just doing the code, keeping it light, and moving on.
yeah. And another thing that sort of changed over the last couple of years for me is um, let's say 5 years ago and earlier, it was like, if there's a library for it, then use that library because, why reinvent the wheel?
Hmm.
But then there's been, as the company I work in sort of matures, we need to be certified here and certified there. And then with this comes, and a lot of customers actually ask for, like, what kind of dependencies do you have? Are they up to date? And so on and so forth. So every time you sort of bring on a new dependency with a bunch of transitive dependencies, like we saw here um, with Juratom. Um, So it doesn't bring in more than Clojure, but let's say that it brought in all this other stuff, right? Then suddenly Nippy is um, at some version that is has a CVE on it. So there's an exploit on it. Then you have to like organize that, and you have to keep track of you have to um, have a scanner that looks at all the libraries that you pull in and see that they're free from CVEs, and it's just a lot of bringing on a library is quite a bit of work. So if the library does nothing more than what you could do yourself, then you might ask if it's worth it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, you definitely pay a price for using that. We've
Mm.
got we've got a viewer, by the way, Olav Fossa, that says, "Cool to see we're
Oh,
using Duratom and rappelling into the prod." And he says you should probably def once the DB. Yeah, okay.
let's do that.
Yeah, so nice to take
Yep.
a bit of advice from the viewing public there.
I think we actually discussed this on the Clojurian Slack the other day as well. Someone wrote a macro for um, something around def once. And I said that I like if I really need to redef it, I just delete those. I delete the ones for a while and then I put it back in.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And hi Olav. He's Norwegian.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
You've got a Norwegian fan on board, Eric.
Yeah. Um, it's actually if we can go on a total tangent. Um, so
Let's do
there's
that. Yeah.
Clojure Europe and there's Clojure Norway. There's two. Those are two Slack channels on the Clojurian Slack.
Yeah.
And Bruce Sterling sort of he brought life into Clojure Europe, and the way that he did that was showing up every morning and saying hi.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Yeah.
And now
We
you
keep
show
on
up
doing
every
it. Yeah.
morning and you say hi, and there's actually a community there. And I
Yeah.
I basically picked up on that on Clojure Norway, which
Mm.
was fairly dead as a channel, and now it is a very nice little channel where a group of people say hi more or less every morning, and then every once in a while, someone asks a really interesting question, and we get like these huge discussions,
Great. Yeah.
which are really cool. So if you want to form a community, just show up and say hi, and then people will actually uh, continue to do so.
Say hi and they will come.
Yes.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
Yep. Should
Yeah,
we
yeah.
leave it
So I
at
think
that
that
for
was
now?
I think that was it was pretty good. I think we've let's just like recap then. So we've made a bit more of a dent into the refactoring part of this. We've made identity a little bit more abstract than it was, and we've now got a way to survive VM failure at least, which is good.
Yeah, or
Uh,
REPL failure, I
Sorry,
guess.
REPL failure. Yeah,
Yeah.
not V. I mean JVM, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
JVM rather than virtual machine on the cloud.
Yep.
But yeah, okay, that's good. And so let's think about what we're going to do next week, and we'll post that on the channel. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
Now we've got this fancy thing now where we can say that we're going to be ending soon, and we're